Minero in East Bay Street in downtown Charleston, which has the distinction of having the broadest selection of mezcal in Charleston. And Eric and I, for this winter's dish, we were really trying to look at some of the lesser known or unsung heroes, if you will, of things around town, including some of the unknown heroes of spirits and drinking. And I think mezcal definitely qualifies for that. And in terms of mezcal control, just recently, I don't think you can find it in bars around town. It's popped up here and there, and then with Minero opened last year, one of the things they did was they brought a big selection of mezcal to Charleston for the first time. It's really where I've had the chance to really explore it and taste it side by side. When was the first time you ever had mezcal, or do you even remember?
If you want to call it mezcal.
Not the kind with the worm.
Yeah, the kind with the worm back in college.
Which you don't remember.
I've had some cocktails around town, definitely. You can get that smoky flavor from mezcal. But really, here was the first time I really experienced mezcal full. I mean, it's a completely different ballgame than what you think you know about mezcal.
Yeah, and definitely, now that's, apart from the rock nut stuff with the worm in it, which oftentimes isn't even a worm, it's just a cactus or something like that. Apart from that, years and years ago, I'm like you, I think craft cocktails is really what I came across mezcal at first because of its smoky flavor, and that's why it's such a great ingredient for a cocktail. But that's really what I associated with it was the smoke, and I love that flavor. But it wasn't until really we started tasting them side by side and really getting a feel for how different one mezcal can be from the other. And it's not the smoke; it's the flavors underneath, particularly the grassy, the fruit flavors, the flavors of the agave, which was sort of an eye-opener for me.
Both Sean and I tend to be whiskey drinkers more than anything else, and amazingly enough, whiskey goes really good with Mexican food, so that we have a decent selection of bourbons and whiskeys here. But in kind of keeping with the history and the culture and understanding the story, I did research and I was looking at tequila, and kind of in my mind it was just tequila can be found everywhere, and there's so much tequila, and it's kind of taken, at least in America, the front run. And I like the idea of introducing people to something that they haven't really seen before. And when we first started doing the research, there were maybe 4 or 5 mezcals that were available, and they started becoming more available in the state. So I wanted to just kind of grab those, and a lot of it was for my own edification because I didn't know anything about it either until we started tasting and reading and researching, and the cultural and historic aspect of it and how it really roots to the farmers. And this is something kind of like the saisons in the beer world. This is what the people were growing and making for themselves, and that kind of fits the whole mentality of Minero and the cuisine and just the whole thought process behind it. So we priced ours by the ounce to give people the opportunity to come in and try 2 or 3 different ones, or 1 or 2, and be able to have an Espadon varietal next to a Madracuche, or have one single village from San Balthazar next to the single village from Minero, and be able to see the differences that come from the geographic regions or the different types of plant, and the mezcalero varieties are blended, so you can see that you have an opportunity to kind of see those different flavor profiles as well.
Yeah, and I think actually that's the way you got to do. You really need to do several side by side, sipping each one, because only side by side can you really tell the variance. And there's just such a difference with the Fidencio, between the Classico Mezcal, which is basically the base. This is run through twice. The base for this, which is just the difference is it has the fruits in it, and then the chicken breast we're talking about. And this side by side is the difference that just that makes, and the smoothness and sort of the floral notes and the fruit notes you get out of this is amazing. But you really got to do it side by side if you want to be able to appreciate the difference. It's not something you just knock back a shot.
I think most of those bottles actually say sip it, don't shoot it on it.
Let's talk about the salt. So, I mean, I think if you're familiar with tequila and the salt and lime tradition, a little bit different with mezcal. It's salt and citrus, but it's a little wrinkle there. We got oranges instead of limes here. And the key thing is this salt, which is something, it's not just your regular table salt, as you can see from the color. Now, you'll notice there's no worm in this bottle of mezcal. The good stuff doesn't have the worm, but you can still have worms alongside with your mezcal in the salt. It's actually sal de gazano, which is literally worm salt, and it's made with salt, which is smoked along with worms, and they're actually the larvae of this moth that lives in the agave plant, and chili peppers mixed together, or chili powder mixed together, and it makes for a great accompaniment. The typical thing, you'll have a sip, salt. You really get the smokiness from the salt. I'm not sure about the worm flavors, but you get the smokiness, a little chili flavor, and then the orange comes in behind it and helps clean the palate. What are we drinking this out of?
Okay, so this is called a Vaso de Veladora, which translates to candle glass. And from my research, I found that the guys that made Mezcal were all predominantly Catholic due to the Spanish Inquisition, and they would go to the Catholic Church on Sunday, and the Catholic Church would have these lined up with candles in them, and they would steal them from the church and then take them back to their mezcalerias and use them as drinking vessels. So it became one of the traditional means of consuming mezcal in the countryside. When in the cities and the finer restaurants, they use stemware and kind of fluted glasses, which I think is a little too ostentatious, especially for this casual environment. And then there's also a hollowed out gourd that's used, but it's traditionally for ritual or religious ceremonies and not really restaurant drinking worthy. I got a couple, but they're like this big, and you would have to like.
The good thing is the
Laugh.
ridges, you can really hold that grip on it, which becomes important.
Do you know of
later
any
on.
other bars, even in the United States, that use these?
I haven't found any yet. I found one company that would sell them to me, and it's in Texas, and it's a mezcal importer, and they have like mezcal gear. So I found one place to get worm salt and one place to get the glasses. So if other people have them, then kudos to them, because they were not easy to find. Our cocktail list was designed by Cappy Pete, our beverage director, and she's done a really good job of kind of capturing the nuances in the mezcal and pairing that with different things. We have a riff on a paloma, which a paloma is a traditional cocktail with tequila and grapefruit. We did it with mezcal, and we add grapefruit Doritos to give it a little bit of a different nuance. And I think really just kind of playing around with those, because mezcal can be so dominant. The first time that I ever tasted it was when Weaver from the bar at Husk made a cocktail with the Del Maguey Vita, and my mind was blown, because I'm so used to how aggressive the smoke can be, that if you can kind of mute that a little bit in your cocktail, it helps bring out the vegetal characteristics and the different nuances that come from the soil that it was grown in. And I've also found that things that go, like the higher you go in altitude, the more kind of green the mezcal tastes, and you get more plant flavors, and it must come from the climate. Like tequila has 5 states that it can be made in. Most of the stuff that we see comes from Jalisco. And in mezcal, there's 10 states, so there's different areas of Mexico that can produce it. And most of the stuff that we see is from Oaxaca. That's their major region. All tequila has to be made with one particular type of agave. It's blue agave. Mezcal's got 23 different varieties that they're allowed to use. So when you get in, if you're starting to dig in and find those kind of artisan versions, then you can see a whole lot of different nuances from plant and region. And that gives you a broader opportunity to go out there and taste different types of it.
I think mezcal really does fit into sort of the culinary spirit still of the times and what we're doing here in Charleston. I think the fact that it is still so close to the land, is so close to the ingredients, it's not some massive industrialized product. I think it's interesting in something different. Will it sweep the nation like Fireball? Probably not, but we've got to hope not. But likely, I think more people try it, more they'll find it something interesting, and definitely something worth experimenting. And who knows where we'll go down the road? There's lots of possibilities.